loin of lamb in one piece makes a great roast. And rather than having the vegetables with gravy, try having them hot as a salad to accompany. Score the flap of 2 loin of lambs and then season with Lee & Perrins Worcestershire sauce. Turn the lamb over and season with 1 teaspoon of minced garlic and a dash more Lee & Perrins. Roll the meat up and tie securely with string. Put 300 grams of thinly sliced pumpkin, 2 sliced onions and 2 sliced parsnips in a shallow roasting tray and toss in a dash of oil. Place the lamb loins on top of the vegetables. Fan bake at 200 degrees Celsius for 35 minutes. Place the lamb on a plate and add half a bag of Wattie's frozen green beans to the roasting dish and return to the oven for 5 minutes. Then pour in half a cup of Eater Light garden herb dressing and toss while the vegetables are hot. Now carve the lamb into juicy loin chops. Serve it with a hot roasted vegetable salad. It's just delicious. See Next Magazine or your supermarket for this recipe.
After One Network News and Homes, the custody battle stuns in Coronation Street. We begin Legends of the All Blacks with Keith Quinn, then update the latest news in Tonight.
Good evening, New Zealand. Leading your news hour, bubbling over with joy, the Black Caps conquer cricket's oldest foe on English turf.
But here there are tears and sadness as a silver fern is farewelled.
A new report paints a grim picture of the health of thousands of children in one of our poorest areas.
And an historic timepiece is set to make good time in the new millennium.
A rare moment for New Zealand cricket. A series victory in England prompting unrestrained joy.
It was the farewell present the New Zealand cricket coach had always hoped for.
A series victory over England bringing down the curtain on Steve Rixon's 3-year reign. It's ended with the Australian as our most successful coach and his team on the threshold of something special. In recent years, cricket's been maligned, a game dogged by more controversies and sackings than successful results. Tonight, optimism's returning. Today's victory was only the 3rd series win against the old country and just the 2nd on English soil. Steve Marshall reports from the Oval on a notable day for New Zealand cricket.
As Roger Toos waited to take the series-winning catch, Steve Rixon watched on from the boundary. The Kiwis giving the coach the perfect send-off with the first Test Series win here in 13 years.
Something you live a lot of years for, and it's happened. And having played a lot of cricket, it's up there with the highlights of my life.
He's helped all of us out immensely, and the best way we could show him how well he's helped us was to win the series, and we've done that.
As they made their way up the pavilion steps, the squad was cheered on by an army of Kiwi supporters. But the biggest roar was saved for New Zealand's player of the series.
It's been a series of team unity and performances from every member, so it was a great all-round performance.
To lose that first game at Edgbaston and then to come back and win the way we did, I mean, it just speaks volumes.
Cairns and Adam Perori displaying the special team spirit that's developed in this New Zealand side that was the key to winning this seesaw battle.
They don't have a Hadley, they don't have a Crow, but they have a hell of a lot of guts and a lot of team spirit, and in the end those qualities won through. And
it's just emotionally charged. It's been a great test, and it's a great campaign. What a way to finish.
So Steve Rixon leaves the Kiwis in good stead, but first of all he has a party to attend. Steve Marshall, One Network News, The Oval, London.
And of course there'll be much more on the Black Caps series victory later in sport.
But while cricket's on a high tonight, netball is remembering one of its leading lights. Today, the funeral for former Silver Fern Leilani Reid was held at Old St Paul's Cathedral in Wellington. And there were so many mourners, the service had to be relayed through speakers to those standing outside. Joanne Black was there.
Friends, family and netballers farewelling a star goal shooter. Leilani Reid's coffin draped with mementos of her life, a photo, a Bible, and her netball uniform.
At 25, you've achieved what it takes most of us, 70. You have lived your life to the max.
Her mother revealing that Leilani had been intricately planning her wedding.
She wrote a letter to Bernice, asking Bernice, please be one of my bridesmaids, because it's very hard to find another one to fill up the number of bridesmaids I was going to have. Do you want to know me?
With much of the wedding apparently planned, Leilani Reid commented to her daughter that it was usual to also have a groom. But she said Leilani replied, "Don't worry, I'll find a man." But it was to her funeral rather than her wedding that hundreds came. One of them, friend and opera singer Ben McKesey. And her grandfather spontaneously stood to lead a Samoan hymn. Joanne Black, One Network News.
And Leilani Reid's legacy will also be remembered at the World Champs next month, where she was due to play for Samoa.
A claim tonight that the health of children in South Auckland has reached a critical level of unacceptability. It's come from the county's Manukau Health Council, which says little has improved since a similar report 5 years ago. Today's card says the area has a high rate of infectious diseases, including 4 times the national rate of measles. It says more than a third of all 2-year-olds aren't fully immunised. A high rate of Maori and Pacific Island children have hearing and sight problems. Just a third of all preschoolers are enrolled with the dental service. And the same number have iron deficiency. The reports prompted Labour to accuse the government of not doing enough to help the people of South Auckland. The Prime Minister, though, wants help to deal with the problems.
Since 1994, we have made a huge step forward to see that families, particularly with young children, have access to all of those services free. And there just is no explanation to me as to why we haven't overcome this problem. Every New Zealander needs to help me overcome this issue. The money's there.
Manukau City has far less doctors per head of population than any other part of Auckland. It is a poor area. It's an area with poor housing. It's an area where there is high need, and they are underserviced, underfunded and under-coordinated. We really need to have a South Auckland strategy, and it's been needed for a long time.
Despite the gloomy reports, South Auckland health workers say the news isn't all bad. They say new initiatives have been put in place to raise the standard of health for the region's 90,000 children. Health reporter Laurelie Mason has more.
South Auckland paediatric nurse Mikkel Noonan out on the beat. Her job to make daily checks on children like 4-month-old Shah Matawheo for the first 3 days after leaving hospital following illness or injury.
He was vomiting last night, and he couldn't eat.
No. The aim, to ensure the child is continuing to thrive and sees the family GP for follow-up care.
At the end of the day, you're quite exhausted, but I do feel for some families that you've probably been able to get in, give some advice so that they may be able to keep their children out of hospital for longer. Has he had immunisations?
What does that mean?
Has he had the injections into his leg at the doctor?
No.
No? Okay.
Doctors say the biggest challenge is ensuring when children leave these wards there's follow-up. They say 40% of South Auckland children have no GP, so the initiatives are being targeted at identifying those children who are at risk and offering them and their parents support and education.
The Health Funding Authority has recently set aside $1 million for well child health checks for South Auckland children. The area will also benefit from the government's $13.5 million child health strategy money. Construction of the new, bigger children's hospital, Kids First, will begin in October. And the Tainui tribe has recently signed a deal with South Auckland Health to help improve services for Maori. The Tainui commitment currently includes 6 GPs and an accident and emergency centre.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, and it helps our people out a lot.
There's a lot we can do in health services about coordinating, integrating our care, and actually improving access by breaking down some of the barriers.
A feat all agree can happen with will, hard work and money. Laurelie Mason, One Network News.
It's week 11 in the Sounds murder trial, and an ex-girlfriend of Scott Watson's has been in the witness box today. The woman says she asked Watson if he killed Blenheim friends Ben Smart and Olivia Hope. Emma Hart continues our extended in-court camera coverage.
2 months after Scott Watson's sloop was seized, police took Watson's ex-girlfriend back on board. Today, with her identity suppressed, she was asked about the forward hatch under which they slept.
The hatch cover had lots of scratch marks on it.
She said prior to Christmas, the hatch was smooth, so smooth she liked to run her hand across it.
She told the court she met Watson in July 1997 and they went out until November that same year, until his behaviour at a party caused her to call it off. However, the two remained in contact and she remembered a conversation they had about the hatch cover in 1998.
Out of the blue, he brought up the subject of the hatch and the scratch marks on it, and that his nieces had made the scratch marks.
Tonight on assignment. We are frustrated.
She told the court after seeing the assignment program on the missing friends, she asked Watson if he'd seen it.
Tell us what his comments were.
He didn't think much of Olivia Hope's father, and he made the comment that Olivia hated him and couldn't wait to get away from him. And I asked him how he knew that, and he said that her friends had told him that.
She told the court how by April she had many questions she wanted answers for and phoned him.
I fairly much asked him if he had done it.
Thank you. And what was his response to that question?
Well, he was agitated, and he said to me that I shouldn't have to ask him that question. He then went on to say that no, he didn't do it.
In cross-examination, Bruce Davidson questioned whether police had supplied questions for her to ask Watson.
Did the police ask you to ask Scott a series of questions of Scott on the phone?
I was faxed some questions.
The defence also challenged her interpretation of Watson's response to the assignment program.
So your interpretation of the conversation was that Scott was relaying to you that he had spoken to her friends personally?
Yes.
And it couldn't be, are you saying that he was simply relaying something that may have been in the public domain? Just comments that rumour and gossip may have been going around?
I don't know.
The witness was visibly upset when Bruce Davidson informed her that the police had taped a conversation with her while she was examining Watson's yacht with police officers. She said she had no idea the recordings were being made and demanded to hear them. Emma Hart, One Network News.
The Crown hopes to wrap up its case this week.
The Australian outback has revealed a remarkable story of survival today. An American adventurer lost in the Great Sandy Desert for a month has been found. Robert Bulgocky was found by the pilot of a search helicopter just before the hunt was abandoned. Bulgocky had set out on a marathon trek trying to test his survival skills against the desert. But after his bike and camping equipment were found 4 weeks ago, a search began. His parents flew out a specialist search team from the United States when the locals gave up the hunt. When he was finally rescued today, Mr. Bulgocky said he'd had enough of walking around the desert.
Coming up on One Network News, thousands of Americans flee their homes as hurricane takes on Texas.
Rescuers in quake-torn Turkey unearth more miracles, but they may stop searching soon.
Pandering to mum, a rare bear enters the world.
And taking the plunge, Kiwi daredevils prove age is no barrier.
It's a bit of a thrill, that's what it is.